It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show. It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show. It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show. It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show.
Steve Harley and the Cockney Rebel, Make Me Smile, Come Up and See Me, perhaps possibly one of the most famous songs of all time. Wonderful. Now, Steve Harley is a singer-songwriter from South London, arguably most famous for fronting the fantastic Steve Harley and the Cockney Rebel, formed in 1972, now celebrating its 50th anniversary, of course, and Steve celebrates with a brand new album, Uncovered, released during lockdown, and a massive European tour, and I am so pleased to say that he joins us on the line now. And Steve, I'm starting all my interviews off at the moment asking everybody how the last 18 months to 2 years have gone for you. How did it go for you, man?
The hardest part for me was that just as before the door slammed in March 2 years ago, we were 9 shows into a 60-show tour. So nearly 60 shows were abandoned, postponed, mostly rescheduled, I'm glad to say. The promoters worked really hard did a great job finding new availability, you know?
Yeah.
Everyone was looking for availability a year ahead, you know. Everyone was having to reschedule, so it was tough. But most of them are in, and this year I'm looking forward to playing those 60 shows.
Fantastic. I mean, there must have been a real worry that we'd never see it again, live shows. It was very
Yeah, it was odd, wasn't it? It was an odd thing. You know, I'd go to sleep thinking, I wonder if I'll ever walk through the hotel lobby again.
Yeah.
And I live in hotels almost, you know. So it was a very strange thing to deal with, obviously it was, but my glass is always more than half full, Andy, you know, and I was optimistic, and, well, I know miracles only happen in the Bible, but what those scientists did in Oxford was close to that.
Yeah.
After 9 months, you know, they came up with the vaccination, and that was really a special moment, I thought.
Yeah, it was quite a remarkable time, which we'll either look back on it with nostalgia or amazement, one or the other.
I'm hoping to just forget it, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. You've had a really interesting life. I've been doing a bit of research on you the last few days, and you start your first job. A couple of things when you were younger that stood out for me was your first job as a journalist with the Daily Express. I mean, I suppose if you're gonna go into show business, finding out how the other half live, so to speak, is quite a good idea.
Yeah, I left there after. I was only in the accounts department after leaving school, but I always wanted to be a reporter, and I worked for 4 years. I trained out in North Essex, and then in East London. Yeah, but I got tired of that in the end. I was always going to be a musician. That was the long and short of it. That was what I was destined to do.
Yeah. And you sadly contracted polio as a child, which gave you 4 years in hospital. That dramatically, I would imagine, would shape a young person's life.
Oh yeah, certainly that sort of thing informs you. It obviously, made me quite solitary, to be honest. I like my own company.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, and but to be introduced to poetry at such a young age, that must have helped with the songwriting, looking back.
Yeah, I suppose so. I've always enjoyed words. I'm a reader and a writer. I can't get away from that. That's what I do, yeah.
Yeah. And your first instrument is a violin, then a guitar, which is a good. I think that's the best way of going about it. And your mum
was a bit of it. Yeah, the violin. I was in the school orchestra, but it must have been a very low bar that they set. I mean, I was never at home with the fiddle. It was only when I was 12 that my mum and dad bought me a little Spanish gut string guitar that I started to learn some guitar chords. And just try to compose songs when I was about 13 and 14. I was trying to write my own songs, but listening to the radio and, borrowing.
But your mum was a jazz singer, and so was following in her footsteps. Was that always the dream, do you think?
Yeah, she was very good. she was semi-professional, but very good. She sang with swing jazz orchestras down in Brighton and Hove, where she was brought up. She'd sing in the flat where we were brought up in South East London, and yeah, there's no question that she had a big voice with a big vibrato. She was really good, yeah. But they all gave things up in those days. You know, she gave that up when she was having children, and she had 5. People did in those days. You didn't pursue a career as a parent, I don't think. Not very few did.
Yeah.
The working classes didn't.
Absolutely. And in 1971, I, like you, was drawn to the folk music circuit. It's not just the music, but it's the people as well. For me, it's almost like a community, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, oddly enough, I played in the folk clubs because that was a way of fine-tuning the songs I was writing, and getting used to dealing with an audience, and I had to, because they weren't very kind to me in the folk clubs, because I was not singing folk music. You know, it will come in Deptford and New Cross in South London. You don't have folk music. It's just none of that. It's so cosmopolitan. But I would go to the folk clubs in central London to do what I said, and I'd floor spot mostly, which was like play for free in the interval. But I was singing the songs that went on the first Cockney Rebel album, Muriel the Actor, and What Ruthie Said, and Sebastian. And the folk club audience wasn't digging that at all. It was nowhere near traditional, you know. But I admire traditional players very much, you know. Some of them are great guitar players and great fiddle players.
Yeah. But in 1972... the Cockney Rebel is formed, and bizarrely, that's a 50th anniversary this year. Still as popular today as ever, really. Are you surprised by the longevity of its popularity?
You didn't think about it, you know. I formed a band in 72, you're right. It's 50 years of playing, and, whoa, yeah. You didn't think about it, obviously you didn't. And we were young men. I was 21. And just giving up a career in journalism to bum about with no prospects, really. Yeah. We did it for fun. You know, you get the lucky break, and which everyone was looking out for. I think we were different. You know, we had no electric lead guitar. All the soloing was done by violin and electric piano. So Cockney Rebel's sound was, I think, as close to as original as people as you can get, really. But there's quite a few that back then that were trying to be original. There was Sparks and Roxy Music were rather like me, trying to break the mould, you know?
Yeah.
So all I want now, of course, is an audience. You don't live off sales of records anymore.
No.
I luckily, I and those around me completely and totally love the job. The touring, the travel, the experiences, the adventures, and of course 2.25 hours on stage every night or whenever we play. It's a wonderful life.
Now, doing your shows, there's 2 or 3 different generations looking back at you of people. It must be lovely.
It is, yeah. There's a lot of youngsters come. A lot of people, the kids are in their, people in their 20s. I see a lot of, and they grew up with the mum and dad being fans. You know,
yeah.
It is interesting. Yeah, I get a lot of on the Facebook, which I look at now and again. I'm not a big fan of it, but I pop in there now and again, or the person who runs it for me tells me what's going on, and I'm fascinated by the comments from certain, and they tell you how. I love the idea that they've been with, many of them have been with me from the very beginning. I love reading that. You think, come on, tell me what it was like, because I want to know. I don't remember, because so much has happened.
Yeah.
But, of course, in the fan's mind, there are salient moments that they will never forget. And I love to hear that. It fascinates me.
And no one's going to thank me if I don't ask you about Make Me Smile. Come Up and See Me. Released in 1975, still one of the most loved tracks for millions of people. You can't be aware when you're writing something like that of the reaction that it's going to get.
No, you can't know. But when we made the record, Alan Parsons was my engineer at Abbey Road, and when we were mixing that track, mixing it down to stereo from 24 track, anyone who came in and heard it in the studio was touched by it in some way. It was touching people. It was having an effect. And when we played it to EMI, my record label, they jumped on it straight away. Their promotion man said #1, and of course promotion men do that. They're salesmen, so they're prone to hyperbole, But he really meant it, and they worked really hard on it and got it to #1 in this country and in several other countries. Yeah, you can't know at the time, though, as you say. You do your best, you release a thing, hope it gets airplay.
Yeah.
But the fans started to call it my pension about 10 years ago. They're not far wrong.
I was going to say, because it crops up almost everywhere, and there's been over 120 cover versions, including Duran Duran did one, and Erasure. Do you embrace that? I mean, it must be like the height of. Is it a nice feeling?
Yeah, it's respect. Respect, yeah. It is. It's a great feeling and very gratifying. Yeah, someone says, I want to make my own interpretation of your song, of my song, of one of my songs. That's very flattering. Rod Stewart has sung A Friend for Life of mine on his second last album. And that's just wonderful. One of the great artists in our industry, in history, picks on your song and says, I'm going to interpret that my way. And it's a lovely feeling, yeah. And ka-ching.
Absolutely. Do you have a favourite?
That's a nice feeling. Yeah, that'll do.
Do you have a favourite cover, perhaps?
Well, my favourite cover of Make Me Smile is actually a very punk and I like them all. Duran Duran and Erasure, as you said. There's been lots of interesting ones, but the Widows kind of got to the point, I think.
Yeah.
That was exciting, yeah.
Fantastic. And I better ask you about your new album. It's called Uncovered. It's an acoustic, almost a celebration of some of the greatest artists and songs in history. Tell us about it.
Yeah. Yeah, 2 of them are mine, and 9 of them are not mine. They're interpretations of songs, that I've been singing at home for many years, and just wanted to show my interpretation of such great songs. They're all songs I wish I'd written, obviously.
Yeah.
And I went into Lockfield in South Wales for 10 days, 12 days with these guys, Martin Simpson, Barry Wickens from my band, Ollie Hayhurst and Tom Hooper, and I went in with them with my great friend and engineer, Matt Butler, and we just made that record. I'm very proud of it, and it was only out for about 2-3 weeks on release before the door got slammed in our faces 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So on the road, when we got a huge amount of shows to play this year as a 4-piece acoustic band, and I'm promoting that album. It's going to be on sale, and I'm going to sing half a dozen from it, because that's, to me, that's a new album. They haven't promoted it properly yet, yeah?
Yeah. Well, I was listening to it. I've been listening to it over the last few days, and the dog loves it because we go on a longer walk, so I can listen to it in peace. It's a fantastic, it's a fantastic bit of work, and you very purposefully say you call it interpretations and not covers, and anyone that listens to the album will understand that.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I'm not normally a pompous. I'm not a pompous type. I'm really not, but. They're not covers, because that's just like making your own, replicating the original. When the songwriters have heard them, and quite a few of them have responded back to me, having been sent the track, they've all said, I love your interpretation. I haven't copied the original, and I was never going to do that. That's just not my style,
Yeah. But there's
my engineer said, what do you want it to sound like? And I said, I want it to sound extremely organic, no EQ, no fiddling with knobs and equipment. Just mic up these beautiful instruments with these virtuoso players, keep it organic, natural, pure. And I want it to sound, I'm going to perform these songs so that the listener thinks I've written it.
And there's a bit of Bowie in there. There's a bit of Paul McCartney, Cat Stevens, Bob Dylan, the Stones. It must have been the hard thing. Must have been knowing what to leave out, was it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm at my age, and having been listening to music since the early 60s, there were hundreds that I could have considered, but these ones on the record, they are songs, that I tend to sing at home. I play a lot of guitar at home. You pick up an acoustic guitar in 3 different rooms in the ground floor of my house, and I can't not pick them up. They're so tactile and beautiful, and the sound, different tunings, and I play those songs and sing those songs. So it wasn't an expensive record to make, because I sang all 11 songs in 1.25 days, one day and about 3 hours, because I've been singing them all for so many years.
Yeah.
And they're all performers, like when you listed them, then it sounded like the backdrop of my own life.
You're about to go on you said earlier that you're in the middle now of a massive 60-date tour. Is life on the road very much different to how it was back in the day?
Yeah, it is really. It's much more relaxed now. Many of the venues that we play have got first-class sound systems and lighting rigs, so we don't have to travel with all that in an articulated lorry. I mean, there's none of that goes on anymore, unless you're playing empty stadiums, empty arenas. I did a few weeks ago. We played the 3,000-seat arena in Glasgow in a big show, and we had to put in all the PA and lights for that. But normally, it's all in-house, and we rock up in our bus, in a splitter bus, 6 of us if it's the acoustic band, 6 of us on the road, and they're just lovely people, so it's very relaxed. You stay in decent places and you see a bit of the world. It's more relaxed, that is the right word. We were all kind of excited and uptight in the 70s and thrashing it, Yeah. Now I realised, in the mid-80s, I realised that my voice is my instrument, and I have to be strong to do, because I like to think when an audience leaves the theatre, they're going to say, Steve performed like it was the last show he was ever going to perform. Mm-hmm. I don't do second best. I can't. I wouldn't be able to face myself in the mirror. I'm sorry, Yeah. So I have to look after my voice and my throat. So I'm laid back about it all, but I still have a few glasses of wine after a show. But mostly, it's a quiet life out there, and there are adventures. Like I told you, I don't just hang about hotels and backstage. We go out and see the cities, the towns, the galleries, the museums, and we have a lot of. It's quite cultured, to be honest.
Fantastic. Before I let you go, the new album, as I say, it's called Uncovered. It's out now. It's a fully acoustic album. It's a fantastic bit of work. We could have chosen anything to play off that album, I've got to be honest with you, but we've plumped for I've Just Seen a Face. Would you do us the honours of introducing it for us?
Yeah, it's one of my favourite Paul McCartney songs. Paul writes narrative, which not many songwriters do, and he's brilliant at it. You could pick on Lady Madonna, paperback writer. Really great narrative, and this one is one of those, a song of serendipity. So this is me, this is Steve Harley and his acoustic band, my band, playing a Paul McCartney song, I've Just Seen a Face.
Wonderful. Steve Harley, it's been a treat to speak to you, man. Thanks ever so much for that. I really appreciate it. Been an absolute treat, and you're a gent. Thanks ever so much for that.
Oh, real pleasure, my friend. Real pleasure. See you on the road somewhere.
Yeah, you take care of yourself, and all the best. Cheers.
Yeah, and you, Andy. Nice talking to you. Bless you. Thanks, matey.
Bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I've just seen a face, I can't forget the time or place where we
Steve Harley, I Just Seen a Face, taken from his brand new album Uncovered, and we'll be playing at the Floral Pavilion in New Brighton on Thursday the 19th of May. For more information, www.steveharley.com. Go and check out Steve Harley. Still doing it right, still doing it proper, right? You're listening to the Stage and Screen Show with me, Andy Snowden, here on 105 Calon FM. Good afternoon.